Hey, back with this Yamaha G1. Finally got a top end kit for it. We're going to put it together and go from there. The ignition CDI module is bad, so we got a Chinese, and we're going to try off of a little Chinese four-wheeler motorcycle and see if we can make it run. So I'm going to put the top end on this thing and get it all bolted back together and see what we can get going on it. So there it is. It needs a lot of cleaning up yet, but so let's get started on it and we'll show you as we're going. Okay, got the piston put on the connecting rod here. Got a little oil put down the main bearing ports. Got the new base gasket on. I like to put a little grease on the bottom of these things. It helps impregnate the gaskets and really keeps you from getting leaked. Plus, it holds it in place. You don't have to use gasket adhesive, which makes a mess and causes it they can actually cause air leaks. All right, so I got the rings on here appropriately. When you are working on any two-stroke engine, it's usually going to be marked with an arrow or label that says EX. That's always towards the exhaust. Okay, the carburetor goes here, the exhaust goes here. And there'll be windows sometimes or a scallop in the bottom of the piston. That's always the intake side. Careful when you put the rings on. There'll be little pins that locate the rings, and you have to see how that goes in there. And they'll be in a little spot right there. You can see a little pin right there, and that ring has to locate on that. So you got to make sure you got them both located before you start trying to cram them in the cylinder. So otherwise they'll bind and cause you problems. So when you're going in on these, you don't need any real special tools. Use a little two-stroke lube if you have it. I like to use engine assembly lube. I like Lubriplate 105, but any of it's good. But you'll notice on a lot of these two-stroke cylinders, they got a little camphor on the cylinder. That's to facilitate pinching the rings with your fingertips and sliding the cylinder down. You can get your fingers in here. So that's what that's for. And you just rock it gently, very little bit to go down in there. When you get these back from any cylinder shop, if they've put a new cylinder in it, you need to make sure that the cylinder lines up with all the ports real good. I raced a vintage dirt bike for a couple years and wondered why I had to race it so hard. And when I finally rebuilt the motor, I found that the liner didn't match the ports, and I was missing all kinds of power. So anyhow, this one was just a replacement cylinder, and it's actually a lot better than I expected. So, you know, everything lines up good. The transfer ports are nice. So anyhow, we're going to start putting this together, and we'll go from there. Alright, so we got the cylinder on there. I like to put a little excess oil. Sometimes it gives a starting problem, but I'd rather have that than not enough lube. So I'm going to get the head gasket on, bolt it down, torque it, and then we'll start putting the exhaust and the carb on, and we'll show you spinning it over. Get a battery in here, and I got to figure out the ignition again because we're using a CDI that's not really designed for it. So the ignition makes this motor run forward and reverse. There's a different set of windings in this, whether it goes forward and reverse, to set the timing properly for which direction you're going. So I believe I have that figured out, but now it's been a month or two since I've fooled with it, so I probably have to relearn it. But okay, so let me get the head on it. We're going to spin it over a little bit, and throw the carb on it, see if we can wire up this CDI, and see what we can get. I had several problems with this motor. Of course, the cylinder was a little wiped out. I had a groove down it, so we replaced the cylinder and the piston. The CDI did not work anymore. It didn't spark. I had cheap CDI. I had one laying around, and it sparked, but it was way out of time. It was like 90 degrees out of time. So we got another one. I tried one off of a little Chinese four-wheeler, and it's perfect. It's like, you know, I don't know what the timing is exactly, but it's somewhere around, you know, maybe 15 degrees. It's only a guess. Let's see, what else did I do? Sorry, I'm drawing blanks. Had to pull the flywheel off because the seal, crank seal, you see there's the inner lip and the spring for the seal, and they were busted. It was just spitting raw fuel out around the crank, so I replaced the crank seals, and now I've got to fix the coil. It just snapped off on me, so I've got to see what I can do with that. So I just got to pull the cover back off because there's a nut that's stripped off inside of there. So, but we did get it to run, and we'll show you that here in a minute, making sure that the carburetor and everything's working and the tank's clean enough. So we're going to wrap that up, and we'll give you another rundown on it. It's getting the air filter top put back on it. We'll be right back. It's Steve and Stevie. Just wanted to give you an update on our little 1980 G1 Yamaha golf cart. I'll give you a quick overview. Of course, we went through the carburetor, put a new cylinder and piston on it. Of course, you know, whole top end, new coil. This CDI is a little Chinese 5-pin CDI for a little four-wheeler, an Adley or a little Polaris. The way this operates is it's got a forward and a reverse solenoid, and it switches with the key up there. And the original CDI will have a set of cables for, one will be forward and one will be reverse, and it changes the polarity on the pulsar coil. Well, I put a couple of diodes in here so that it's able to run the same circuit and just switch polarity from the switch, because they had so many different systems going on to make this operate. I couldn't do it other than this, and it worked very good. So it operates forward and reverse. It runs like a champ. We've got the motor broke in, ran it through about 3 or 4 heat cycles, and the muffler was packed full of carbon and oil, and got the fuel system working, the oil system's working. It's got an oiler. The only thing I have left to do is to find a good cap. You can see it's splashing a little oil out, more than a little, but it does operate. Fuel pump's working, tank's clean, so it's charging 14 volts. So we're gonna clean it up real good, paint the wheels, and move it along, see if we can sell it. So but this is it, and we'll show you a picture of it running and driving. So okay, I hope this helps you at all. We're still running like 50 to 1 in the tank right now, along with the oil injection, until we get, you know, run this tank through it to get the motor broke in. So that's it. We've got a few little things to wrap up, clean it up a little bit here and there, but other than that, it's ready to go, besides maybe painting the wheels and one new right rear tire there, and maybe sand on these bumpers. But other than that, we're pretty much wrapped up. So
thanks for watching, guys.
Yep.
Please like and subscribe and leave a comment if you want to see us do something cooler.
Sure.
Or anything on this.
Yeah. Hope this helps.